Welcome to everyone. Today we shall discuss Unit 2 Canonical Forms. So here main three concepts we are going to discuss are normal form of a matrix, elementary transformations, and finding inverse of a matrix by using Cayley-Hamilton theorem. Then the remaining concepts are characteristic polynomial and minimal polynomial of a matrix and block matrices. Now we shall start with elementary operations to discuss the normal canonical form of a matrix. So to discuss this one, elementary operations is a building block, that is the basic thing. So this you have already studied in your second semester course. Now let us recall what are elementary transformations or elementary operations and what are equivalent matrices and what do you mean by the rank of a matrix. Now elementary operations. Now I have suppose any matrix A1, B1, C1, A2, B2, C2, A3, B3, C3. This is a 3 cross 3 matrix. In the first unit we have defined what you mean by matrix and many topics in matrices are discussed. Now let us consider an arbitrary matrix of order 3 cross 3. Now elementary operations, that are the operations applied on any given matrix. So there are three operations. So these are of two types, row operations or column operations. You can apply these operations row wise or column wise. If you apply it row wise, it is called elementary row operations. If you apply it column wise, then it is called elementary column operations. Now we shall discuss elementary row operations. Same thing can be extended to elementary column operations. Now first operation, that is the most important one, is interchange of rows, interchange of any two rows. Now if I apply the operation, I can interchange any two rows here. Either I can interchange row 1 with row 3 or I can interchange row 2 with row 3. So interchanging the rows of a matrix, or that is the first operation. Second operation is multiplication of a row by a non-zero scalar. Suppose I have this row, second row. Now I can multiply this row by any non-zero scalar. That is the second operation. Third operation, addition to a row, a non-zero multiple of other row. Suppose I can multiply any non-zero scalar to row 3. That resultant row can be added to row 1 or row 2. So that is the third operation. Same thing can be written or changed applied using columns. That is called column operations. You can interchange any two columns, or you can multiply any column by a non-zero scalar, or multiply any column by a non-zero scalar, then add it to another column. That is elementary column operations. So we have three operations as explained. Now suppose I have two matrices. Suppose I have this matrix. Now interchanging two rows, I'll get another matrix that I'll call as B. Now B is obtained from A by applying row operations or simply elementary operations. So if you have two matrices A and B, such that one is obtained from the other using elementary operations, then we call that two matrices are equivalent. In that case, we shall write like this: A equivalent to B. Meaning of this is one matrix is obtained from the other using elementary operations. See, if B is obtained from A, obviously A can be obtained from B. So if one is obtained from the other by applying elementary operations, then we say that those two matrices are equivalent. And mathematically, we shall write it by using this symbol, tilde symbol. A equivalent to B. Next important parameter that we define after elementary transformations is echelon form of a matrix. Echelon form of a matrix. Suppose I have a matrix like this, and to say that matrix is in echelon form, it has to satisfy some set of conditions. What are the conditions? The first condition is, see, the first entry of any row is called leading entry. here A1 is the leading entry of first row, A2 is the leading entry of the second row, A3 is the leading entry of the third row. If I simply say leading entry of A, that means the first entry of first row. Leading entry of a matrix means that is the first entry of first row. To say that this matrix is in echelon form, it has to satisfy totally three conditions. First one, the leading entry of every row must be 1. The first non-zero leading entry is. First non-zero leading entry of every row must be 1. Here I should have 1. Or if I have 0 here, then it must be 1. Or if I have 0 here also, then it must be 1. So if you take any row, the first non-zero entry must be 1. And if I have 1 here, then entries below that column. Entry in that column below 1. Entry in that column below unity must be 0. So that are the two conditions. First condition, leading entry of any row or first non-zero entry of any row must be 1, and any entries below 1 in that column must be 0. So here I have 1 means I must have 0, 0 here. In case I'll get 1 here, then I should have 0 here. If I get 1 here, then I don't have next row. No need to worry about it. So that is the second condition. Third condition, if there is any 0 row, that must be at the bottom of the matrix. Suppose I have 0 row here, 0, 0, 0. See, if all the entries of that row are 0, then we call that row as 0 row. If at least one entry is non-zero, then we call that row as non-zero row. So observe this carefully. If all the entries of that row are 0, then row itself is called 0 row. If at least one entry of that row is non-zero, then we call that row as a non-zero row. So if the matrix has any 0 row, that must be at the bottom of the matrix. You should not have 0 row here or here. That should be at the bottom of the matrix. So to say that a matrix is in echelon form, it has to satisfy three conditions. First one, any non-zero entry, first non-zero entry of any row must be 1, and entries below 1 in that column should be 0, and if there is any 0 row in that matrix, that 0 row must be at the bottom of the matrix. So if all the three conditions hold, then we say that the given matrix is in echelon form. The number of non-zero rows in echelon form of a matrix is called rank of a matrix. Number of non-zero rows is called rank. It is denoted by like this, row of A, rank of A. So to find the rank of an arbitrary matrix, first you have to check whether the given matrix is in echelon form or not. If it is in echelon form, we are done. In that case, just count number of non-zero rows. Suppose it is not in echelon form, then you have to reduce that to echelon form. That means it has to satisfy those three conditions that I have listed already. Then count number of non-zero rows. That number is called the rank of A, denoted by this symbol, row of the given matrix A. Next, normal form of a matrix. Here you get two types of problems. Either you will be asked to reduce the given matrix to normal form, or you may be asked to find rank of a matrix by reducing it to normal form. So finding the rank using echelon form is one thing. Now we are going to find the rank of a matrix reducing it to normal form. What do you mean by normal form? Suppose A is any matrix. As I said, A is an arbitrary matrix of any order. It may be any rectangular matrix, not necessary of having square matrix. Let A be any rectangular matrix. Then applying row operations and column operations simultaneously. Both operations you can apply. So earlier what we had did in this case, echelon form, we shall apply only row operations. We don't impose column operations there. Now we can apply any row operation or column operation to reduce the given matrix to any one of these forms. IR, 0 or IR 0, IR 0, 0, 0. Here IR represents an identity matrix of order R. So IR represents an identity matrix of order R. So given the matrix, using both elementary row operations and column operations, you have to reduce that matrix to any one of these four forms. After reducing this number R, this will be the rank of A. R will be the rank of the given matrix A. So you can find a rank by reducing the given matrix to normal form. Now we should discuss a problem on normal form of a matrix. So the matrix will be given. We shall explain the procedure. So you will be given with the matrix. The first step is check whether the leading entry of the matrix is 1. That is, first entry of first row is 1. Usually you will be given with the matrix whose leading entry is 1. First entry of first row equal to 1. If it is equal to 1, again I should take this example. A equal to A1, B1, C1, A2, B2, C2, A3, B3, C3. So understand the procedure first before solving the problem. Check this entry, the leading entry of the matrix A. If this entry is 1, then applying row operations, make these two 0. Applying row operations, make entries in that column 0. Then apply column operations to make entries in that row 0. That will be done. Then come to this one, the leading entry of second row. Now applying row operation to make this 0. Then apply column operation to make this 0. Next, make this entry unity. That is the procedure. So I have to look into the first entry of first row. If it is equal to 1, then make entries below 0 by applying row operations. Entries in that row 0 by applying column operations. Next, come to second diagonal entry. Next, make entries below 0 by applying row operation. Entries in that row 0 by applying column operations. Next, third diagonal entry. If you have 4 cross 4 matrix, then I have to make these two entries 0. Otherwise, if you have only 3 cross 3 matrix, make this entry 1. So I have to make diagonal entries 1 and all other entries 0, so that it will be reduced to IR, identity matrix of order R. Now let us take a problem. Find the rank of the matrix capital A equal to, find the rank of the matrix capital A equal to 1 2 minus 1 3, 4 1 2 1, 3 minus 1 1 2, 1 2 0 1, by reducing it to normal form. So here the matrix is given, we have to find its rank by reducing it to normal form. So recall the procedure. First we have to look into the leading entry of the matrix. So here I have A11 equal to 1. So no need to worry about it. Next I have to make these 3 entries 0 by applying row operations. So what are the suitable row operations? R2 should change to R2 minus 4R1. R3 should change to R3 minus 3R1. R4 should change to R4 minus R1. So these are the row operations you have to apply to make the entries below 1 to be 0. Now applying these operations, the given matrix reduces to A. See, next you should not write equal sign, because next matrix is obtained from A by applying row operations. So you have to write this symbol, equivalent symbol. Now A will be equivalent to first row, no change, 1 2 minus 1 3. Next, applying operations. This 3 entry will be 0. So minus 7, 6, minus 11. Minus 7, 4, minus 7. 0, 1, minus 2. Now applying operations, I got this. Next, I have to make this 0. So I have to apply suitable column operations. Now, applying column operations, C2 changes to C2 minus 2C1. C2 changes to C2 minus 2C1. C3 changes to C3 plus C1. C4 changes to C4 minus 3C1. Now applying operations, you get A equivalent to, so here 1, 0, 0, 0. Now the second column will be zero, 0, 0. Since I have 0, 0, 0 here, this have no effect on other entries. So we get same thing. This minus 7, 6, minus 11, minus 7, 4, minus 7, 0, 1, minus 2. Now I got 1 here and all the entries in that row and column 0. Next I have to make this 1. Here I don't have 1. So I have to make this 1. Then I have to make this entry 0 and these two 0. To make this 1, I have to use suitable operation. Don't divide that row by minus 7 to make it 1. Then if you divide like that, then you get fractions here. That will be difficult for further computation. So I have to make it 1 by avoiding fractions. So I'll use the operation for that. C2 changes to, here I'll use C2 changes to C2 plus C3. If I change C2 changes to C2 plus C3, C2, this row will be minus 7 plus 6. We get minus 1 here. Then change C3 to, after applying this operation, then change C2 to minus C2. So with these two operations, A will be equivalent to one zero 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 0 1 6 minus 11 0 3 4 minus 7 0 minus 1 1 minus 2. So I got first leading entry of second row 0 or second diagonal entry 0. Now I have to make these two 0 by applying row operations. So the suitable row operations are R3 changes to R3 minus 3R2 and R4 changes to R4 plus R2. Then these two will be 0. Then apply column operations to make these two 0. Then after applying this operation, the suitable column operations are C3 changes to C3 minus 6 C2 and C4 changes to C4 plus 11 C2. So in that case, after applying the operations, the matrix will be equivalent to, after applying this operation, then this one, the matrix will be 1 0 0 0, here 0 0 0, 1 0 0 minus 14 26 7 minus 13. Next I have to make this entry 0. Sorry, it should be 1, not 0. So to make that entry 1, I'll do one thing. Here I have 7, which is a divisor of 14. So instead of applying or involving other row with this, other column with this, I'll do one thing. I'll change C3 to 1 by 14 C3. Then I get here 1. Let us take minus 1 by 14. So it will be 1, it will be minus 1 by 2. Then applying operation, R4 changes to R4 plus 1 by 2 R3. The matrix you are going to obtain is 1 0 0 0 0 0 0 1 0 0 0 1 0 0 1 okay 0 0 0 0. Yes, this is of the form. So this is IR comma 0. Here 0 represents 0 column. So comparing with this, here R equal to 3. So rank of A is 3. That is the way of finding the rank of a matrix using elementary operations or reducing the given matrix to normal form. So that is about the first concept, finding the rank of a matrix or reducing the matrix to normal form. So the next concept is finding inverse using elementary matrices. So elementary transformations we have discussed already. So what do you mean by elementary matrices? Consider an identity matrix, IN or IR, whatever. Consider an identity matrix. Then apply row operations or column the row operations to it. You will get a matrix that we call as elementary matrix. For example, take this matrix A equal to 1 0 0 0 1 0 0 0 1. This is an identity matrix of order 3 cross 3. Now let us apply an elementary operation on this matrix. For example, say R2 changes to R2 or 5R2 minus R3. Then what will be this? A will be equivalent to first row no change 1 0 0 and second row 0 5R2, that is 5 minus 0, you get 5 only. Next 0 minus 1, you get minus 1, 0 0 1. Now this one is called an elementary matrix because that matrix is obtained from identity matrix by applying elementary operations. So that is the idea of elementary matrices. Next we are going to discuss how to find the inverse of a matrix using the concept of elementary matrices. So the thing is, to find the inverse, you have to write the given matrix in the form A equal to I into A. So consider the given matrix, then write it in the form A equal to I into A, then substitute for capital A and capital I, don't substitute for this. Then apply a series of row operations and reduce this left hand side matrix capital A to identity matrix. Correspondingly, there will be change in this identity matrix, and this actually takes the form after applying series of operations I equal to B into A. Then B into A, I have the product to be I. So B will be the inverse of A. So B will be A inverse. That is the required inverse of the given matrix. So let us see a problem on this. Find the inverse of the matrix using elementary matrices. So A equal to 1 0 2, 2 minus 1 3, 4 1 8. See, this is the given matrix. We need to find its inverse. So as I said already, I had to write this in the form A equal to 1 0 0. I had to take an identity matrix of order same as A 0 0 1 into A. Now what happens? I have this. I had to apply series of row operations to reduce this to identity form. So the suitable operations are R2 changes to R2 minus 2R1, R3 changes to R3 minus 4R1. Now applying these two operations, these two entries will be 0 and the resultant matrix will be, applying that operation, 1 0 0 in the first column, 0 2 first row, minus 1 1 0 equal to, corresponding to that there will be change in this identity matrix. That change is 1 0 0 minus 2 1 0 minus 4 0 1. Now again apply operations. I have to get 0 here, then I should get 1 here. Applying series of operations. You have studied these elementary transformations in your second semester. So you can apply further operations to make this 0. This 0 I have to make and this 1. So with all that operations, finally you are going to get I on the left hand side, I equal to minus 11, 2, 2, 4, 0, minus 1, minus 6, 1, 1 into A. So I got this one. I equal to some matrix of order 3 cross 3 into A. Therefore, now I have I equal to B into capital A. So B can be regarded as matrix of A. So I have A inverse equal to inverse matrix of A. So I have A inverse equal to minus 11, 2, 2, 4, 0, minus 1, minus 6, 1, 1. That is the way of finding inverse of a matrix using the concept of elementary matrices. Next, the concept is, so try to work another problems. So I am here solving only one problem from each concept. So refer the notes and problems. You can find many other problems. Then solve those problems to get the idea. Next is about finding the inverse of a matrix again using Cayley-Hamilton theorem. That concept I have already studied in our second semester also. So not necessary to go in deep. So I have a matrix in a square matrix. So to study or to solve problems on Cayley-Hamilton theorem, we have to know what do you mean by eigenvalues and eigenvectors, because it will be through the characteristic polynomial of A. I have a matrix, square matrix A, then any non-zero scalar lambda satisfying the condition Ax equal to lambda x, where x is a non-zero column vector. Sorry, lambda may be 0. So any scalar lambda satisfying the condition Ax equal to lambda x, where x is a non-zero column vector, is called eigenvalue. And corresponding x is called eigenvector corresponding to lambda. Eigenvector of A corresponding to the eigenvalue lambda. Now, to find the eigenvalues of the given matrix, the procedure I have to follow is consider lambda into I, where I is an identity matrix of order same as A. Then take A minus lambda I. You get a square matrix again. Find its determinant, then equate it to 0. So equating that to 0 and simplifying, you get a polynomial like this. Lambda power n plus a n minus 1, lambda power n minus 1 plus and so on, a1 lambda plus a naught equal to 0. That is the polynomial you are going to get. Now, if I replace lambda by a, this will be a power n plus a n minus 1, a power n minus 1 plus and so on, a1 capital A plus a naught equal to 0. So what is this? This is a polynomial in the variable. What is the variable? Capital A. That is the matrix. So any polynomial in capital A in the matrix A is called a matrix polynomial. Matrix polynomial. Any polynomial in capital A is called matrix polynomial. So this is an example of a matrix polynomial. We shall discuss matrix polynomial later after this one. Now I have this one. Multiply both sides by A inverse. So multiplying both sides by A inverse, we will get a power n minus 1 plus a n minus 1, a power n minus 2 plus and so on. Here I have a1 into capital A, multiplying it by A inverse. So A into A inverse equal to identity matrix. So a1i plus a naught A inverse equal to 0. Now taking this term to that side, I will get a naught A inverse equal to or minus a naught A inverse equal to. Do one thing, take this single term to the right hand side. Minus a naught A inverse equal to a power n minus 1 plus and so on a1i. Therefore A inverse equal to minus 1 by a naught times this one. A inverse equal to minus 1 by the constant term times this one. The same term you have to write here. So that is the way of finding the inverse of the matrix using Cayley-Hamilton theorem. I am not going to discuss problems on this because this concept you have already studied in second semester. So only thing is, consider the given matrix capital A, find its characteristic polynomial. I will tell you the procedure. Find its characteristic polynomial, then replace lambda by capital A, then you get like this. Then compute each these terms, a power n minus 1, a power n minus 2, a power n minus 3 and so on. Usually you will be given with order 3 cross 3. So only thing is you have to compute a square, a and identity matrix. So a square you have to compute a and identity matrix are obvious. That you can write directly. Then substitute for that and finally a inverse will be minus 1 divided by the constant term times this term. So this you can do on your own. Hope that will be easy to you. So this completes for some extent unit 2. So the remaining concepts are characteristic polynomial of a higher order matrices and minimal polynomial, matrix polynomial and so on. So I said here the matrix polynomial. So any polynomial in the variable capital A, where A denotes the matrix, is called a matrix polynomial. And characteristic polynomial, that I have already explained. If you expand the determinant of a minus lambda I equal to 0, whatever you are going to get, that is a polynomial in lambda, that is called a characteristic polynomial. So every characteristic polynomial is an example of a matrix polynomial. So matrix polynomial is any polynomial in which The variable is capital A, and characteristic polynomial is one of the example for matrix polynomial. Sometimes there are some other polynomials which have degree less than characteristic polynomial, but that are also matrix polynomials. So any matrix polynomial of minimum degree is called a minimal polynomial. Any matrix polynomial of minimum degree is called a matrix polynomial. Now, sometimes for some matrices you may have the characteristic polynomial itself the minimal polynomial. In general, if you have the minimal polynomial, say m of t, then that always divides the characteristic polynomial. Characteristic polynomial will take p of t. Usually you will have take that as capital delta of t. So minimal polynomial divides the characteristic polynomial always. For some matrices you may have minimal polynomial equal to characteristic polynomial, but that need not be true always. Minimal polynomial always a divisor of characteristic polynomial. The next important thing is, suppose two matrices are equivalent, A and B are equivalent, and the minimal polynomial of capital A is P of x and minimal polynomial of capital B is Q of x. Now we have two matrices and correspondingly we have their minimal polynomials. Now, what is the relation between these two minimal polynomials? You can check that if x naught is any root of P of x, that is P of x naught equal to 0, then Q of x naught is also 0. So wherever this vanishes, this also vanishes there. And as I said, since one matrix is obtained from the other by using operations, P of x divides Q of x, and also Q of x divides P of x. So one is a divisor of the other, and every root of P of x is also a root of Q of x. So from these two things, you can conclude that P of x equal to Q of x. You can conclude that P of x equal to Q of x. So two similar matrices have same minimal polynomial. So that is about minimal polynomial. How to compute minimal polynomial of a matrix, that we shall discuss later. The only part of unit 2 that is left to you, or which may be discussed later, is how to compute the minimal polynomial of the matrix A. Now, there is one more point I have to cover. What do you mean by an involutory matrix? This is from unit 1. So, these concepts are from unit 1. What do you mean by involutory matrix and the nilpotent matrix? Involutory matrix, so I'll consider a square matrix of order n cross n. Now, to say that this matrix is involutory, I should have A square equal to I. If A square equal to I, then we call capital A is involutory matrix. If A square is not equal to I, then we don't call A as involutory. So that is the condition that A has to satisfy to be an involutory matrix. Next, we have nilpotent matrix concept. Say I have a square matrix A. Square matrix A I have. So I'll multiply A with itself. So multiplying A with itself, I'll get A square. Then multiplying A cube, and so on. For some positive integer k, you may get A power k equal to 0. You may get or may not. If you don't get, then the matrix A is non-nilpotent. If you get A power k equal to 0 for some positive integer k, then we call that A is a nilpotent matrix. Then we call A is a nilpotent matrix. And k is called order or degree of degree of A. Now, a matrix A is said to be, a square matrix A is said to be nilpotent if a power k equal to 0 for some positive integer k, and it is involutory if a square equal to I. So these are the concepts that I missed in unit 1. So in the regular classes we have discussed symmetric matrices and skew symmetric matrices, Hermitian and skew Hermitian matrices, unitary matrices, normal matrices and orthogonal matrices. And involutory and nilpotent matrices are explained here. Suppose if you are asked to find check whether the given matrix is involutory or not, you have to just multiply the matrix with itself. Check whether it is equal to I. If it is an identity matrix I, then the given matrix is involutory. If not, then the matrix is not involutory. Similarly, suppose you are asked to verify whether the given matrix A is nilpotent or not, then multiply it with itself. So maximum you can go up to a power 4 or a power 5. Behind that we don't go usually. And when you take this product a square a cube, then only get the idea whether the matrix is going to be a zero matrix or not. So if you get a power k equal to 0 for some positive integer k, then the matrix A will be nilpotent. If you don't get a power k equal to 0 for any positive integer k, then the matrix is not nilpotent. If the matrix is nilpotent, then the order or index of k, it is not a degree, is order or index. Order or index of A is k. So that is about involutory and nilpotent matrices. So unit 1 we have almost completed orthogonal matrices that we have discussed already, and unit 2 how to compute the minimal polynomial of a matrix. Only that concept is not discussed, and unit 3 that may be discussed later. Vector spaces and notes is already given. Unit 4 infinite series. Of the unit we have I think discussed in the class. Only thing is we have to discuss Rabus test, ratio test and root test. Okay, let us discuss that later. And unit 5 that I have already discussed. There we will get problems on Laplace equation, heat equation, wave equation and problems on Crank-Nicolson method. We get 10 marks questions there. We get one question from heat equation and one question from wave equation for 20 marks, another from Laplace and Crank-Nicolson. So as we have divided now. Now you may get question from heat equation, 2 questions from heat equation, that we can't say. We have already completed almost 5th unit. Only thing is Crank-Nicolson method is not discussed. Let us